Hi guys, thank you for tuning in to a very special episode. We've got a joint episode of Different Roots and
Mentalk Ubuntu.
we're very lucky to do a collaborative episode today. We're doing a deeper roots and about mental health, and who better to invite for this episode than guys that's big advocate for mental health in the people of color community. So welcome, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure and honor to be here.
Yeah, no worries. So before we begin, let's quickly do a quick introduction as to who we all are, I guess, because I know you'll be releasing this on your podcast too. So why don't you start us off?
Sure. As our listeners will know, I'm Shamenda and currently doing a PhD part-time and teaching part-time. Also, had a few struggles with mental health, really got involved with the services to get out of that space, and now trying to help other people work their way out of those, as well as I love having fun, being active, so we're trying to combine it with that sort of thing, and very happy to be here.
Nice one. Guys, I'm Dami Akabulu. Some know me as the chill philosopher, because I'm a very laid back guy. I'm a very logical thinker. I run my own marketing photography business that specializes in virtual tours called Space VR. Growing up, I'm from a Nigerian background. I lived in Nigeria, England, Canada, and now back to UK. So I've experienced a lot of cultural diversity and also cultural differences from the different environments I've been in professionally and in my educational pursuits. So I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences with you guys and talking about my struggles and my triumphs. And we'll take it from there.
My name is Ray. I'm an IT project manager in terms of my profession. On top of that, I'm also a founder of Mentalk Ubuntu, very passionate about mental health, Black man, changing perceptions, breaking stigmas in the community, and just bringing everybody together so we can, create that sustainable change now and also in the long-term future. And just be more happy and be together with not just brothers, but also everybody else in the wider community, create advocates, allies, and everything else that goes along with it.
I'm Jermaine. They call me the optimistic anthropologist because I do think everything's going to work out well. And I studied anthropology. I run my own consulting firm called Agile North Consulting, and I love playing basketball and quite passionate about social issues, especially general injustices, whatever they may be. So looking forward to sharing my life in boarding school in England, being the only Black kid in the class, and generally my time in Nigeria, and a bit of diversity and different perspectives.
Yeah, nice one. So guys, let's get this going.
I mean, I want to break the ice.
All right, go on. Let's do it.
Break the ice in normal tradition of what we do. I'll hand it over to Shai, who can give us that icebreaker.
I mean, so the typical way we like to start is on a scale of 1 to 10. Dami, how are you feeling today? 1 being not so great, 10 being amazing and outstanding.
Oh, this is a good icebreaker. I think I'm very much a politician by my responses, so I'm going to say a 5. So there's room for improvement always, but I'm never going to be too depressed about my day, because I know I'm blessed by I have the ability to pay my bills. I have the ability to be thankful that I'm able to walk, play basketball, have friendships and things like that. So I have support systems in place that I know if I falter, I can always rely on that, and so I can never really be a 1 because of God has blessed me in many ways, so 5.
Amazing.
Go for it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, right now I would say I'm about a a 7 going on an 8. Outstanding, always improving is my everyday motto. The fact that I'm blessed to be invited on this lovely podcast with my fellow brothers. And I know at the end of this podcast, I'll be, a roaring 9, 10, who knows? But yeah, stay tuned, we'll find out. But other than that, I'd say, just to echo what Dami said, very blessed and fortunate to be where I am and, count my blessings. And more importantly, I'm in a good space in terms of my mental health because I've got a really good support network as well. And just continuing to build and not rest on that.
Well, I'm optimistic, so I'm going to be a 9. I would be a 10, but I've got so much work to do that
Don't we all though?
keeps me a 9. Yeah, but I think that even when I've got loads of work to do, I was like, it'll figure itself out in the end. So I'll be a solid 9. And regarding support networks, I mean, that's what friends are for and family. And so yeah, I feel pretty good. And it's sunny.
It is sunny, but a little too hot for some.
Way too hot.
For some.
We've
Not
got
just from
a
Nigeria.
fan underneath the table right now. So little do you know.
It's not doing much justice, is it?
No, not at all. So what are you at in this 1 to 10 scale?
I'm a solid 7 for today.
Nice.
And a lot of that's probably to do with the excitement of being here. I've listened to your show a bit, just bumping into you guys, got really good energy. What a host.
Are you talking about this water with color and ice? I'm sorry, do you want me to downgrade you to a cup?
We're going out the good glasses.
Exactly. It's no brandy or Hennessy, but it'll do to quench your thirst.
But yeah, like everyone was saying, I think more and more each day and each year, just realizing how many amazing people I have in my life. And I think part of it with Mentalk Ubuntu is, as much as we're for mental health advocacy, there's a lot of other things that we know will be tied to that, such as building stronger communities and bonds. And there's just basic things that we don't do, especially as Black men, that could change our lives, but more so our communities in a big way. Like the 4 of us might have done amazing things separately, but granted, if we come together, there's so much more we could do and more than likely help other people. And yeah, that connection spot's missing. So anytime like today, we get the chance to connect with other brothers.
That's it.
Good looking brothers out here, smart brothers out here.
You're
brothers
looking,
who
you're
can give me
looking,
a job
you're
out here.
looking at just me, right? He's talking about just me. I don't know about these guys in background.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And so part of our mission is also to promote positive perceptions of Black men and mental health. And when you hear about everything that we're doing, it's not the image that you typically see on TV. We've all said it. And the facts are, there are a lot of us who are doing great and we just need to be visible.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for being visible and letting us be visible on your platform as well.
No worries. So actually, I realized that as part of being associated with your podcast, and you guys have a nice little community you got going here in Greater Manchester, where you guys even plan trips, right? So I know that you guys recently did like a walk up. Was it Snowdon or where is it you guys walked up?
Yeah.
Some crazy mountain that
Snowdonia.
Snowdonia. You know, it has the word snow in it, right? So like Black people are not associated to snow, but I guess you're like, it's okay.
That's another stigma of Black people.
Oh, okay.
Again,
good. We're gonna break stigmatism.
And we can't swim as well, apparently. Even though I go swimming pool in Nigeria. So I mean, I don't I've been swimming since I was
Have
a
you
kid.
used it though? Okay. Some people have swimming pool.
So some of my friends come there like, I'm not gonna get
Flex.
down. I'm like, dude, it's a support. Like, a lot of people can't swim, but, you know.
I couldn't swim. I was even swimming in the lake.
Let's take a vote. Who can swim here? There you go. See, there you go. Smashing out the stereotypes. All of us can.
All right.
You don't believe what you read online.
All right. Fair. So yeah, you're telling me you do excursions in groups, and what typically happens on these excursions, and why did you guys even do it? Right?
Yeah. So this all started, I would say, in the middle of the pandemic. I actually hiked up Snowdon, and it was one of those things I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. And it was those stereotype things that, oh, this is for a white person kind of thing. I done it, and once I actually done it and I got to the top and came back, I had this sense of overwhelming achievement that I've never
Euphoria,
had.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Sorry?
Euphoria, just
Yeah,
bliss and
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's good.
I've just never had that before.
Mm.
And I was like, wow. So fast forward to the following year, 2020, we're in the pandemic, and I'm thinking, okay, in terms of, you know, what's happened with the George Floyd thing, that the whole George Floyd thing has really shook, not just the world, but also as Black people, for us as well, because essentially we're also numb to a lot of racism and things like that, especially being in this country. Even though they say, oh, it's not really in this country, it's in America. Here it's just, it's watered down. Exactly. It's watered down, but really and truly, it's so evident. And nowadays, it's the case of like, you just numb it, suppress it, even though it's still there, and just get on with it. So the fact that it was unfortunate that the George Floyd thing happened, but it was also fortunate that it shook all Black people to realize that this is something so real. And it also had knock-on effects to people, you know, whether they were in workplaces, out of workplaces, things like that, and how companies were basically reacting to that. And at the end of the day, you know, there was no support mechanism to kind of help us Black people in that regards. So I put two and two together, had that light bulb moment that, you know, we need to create something where we bring Black men together, as opposed to bringing them in the building, them thinking we're going to sing Kumbaya, my lord, but for us to go on a journey together where we're hiking, it's not a race, we're doing it all together, and we're basically speaking to each other. Because again, in terms of the mental health, Black men don't speak. We don't know how to communicate, we don't know how to break stigmas, we don't know how to share struggles and strife. So I thought this would be the best way for us to kind of put that whole journey, because again, climbing up Snowdon is not easy. It's not easy, and it's not a race at the end of the day. You've got to stop. Everyone has different abilities, and that also has that kind of symbolism to kind of say everyone has their own struggles in their journey, but lo and behold, we're all going to get there together. And that was the unique part that kind of, you know, brought us kind of together. But what I done, I kind of shared my idea with Shai and also another friend of mine as well, who they just immersed themselves into it. And, you know, it's like, this isn't something I've created. This is something we're collectively going to create, not just for ourselves, but also for everybody else to take ownership to have for themselves as well. And if anything, that journey has just opened a lot more doors and a lot more insight in terms of how important mental health is, because this is something we take for granted. If we go back home, we talk about mental health, they're like, what's that? You know,
where's home for you, by the way?
Zambia.
Yeah. All right, and home for you?
Yeah, Zambia as well, born and bred.
All right, so Zambia meets Nigeria
There you
here,
go.
but our culture is still, you know,
Exactly.
still the same, you know, stigmatisms, and to be able to openly talk about mental health, it's not a readily
It's not an open conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
and even in the family home, it's not really an open conversation. Whereas going through this whole journey has really enabled me a lot in terms of my relationships, not just in my family, but outside of that, and know how to be and pull people together so we can all support each other. Because again, not only are we breaking stigmas, but it's also about creating that sustainable infrastructure that we've not really had. We've had parts of it, but
sure. I can imagine, like, you know, depending on the group that you have with you, when you walk up that mountain, you guys kind of, you know, you pant and heave together, but however you talk about your different stories, and then you say, hey, you know what, you build a somewhat of camaraderie at the end of the day, because it's a collective effort, right? So you guys achieve something together. But, you know, kudos to you guys to be able to, A, do it during lockdown, B, keep doing it now, and C, when's the next big hike up or next big activity? Because I know
If we tell
We
you
need
that you're
to-
coming, that's the question.
He's doing all this talk. I'm not going anywhere. I'm climbing up the damn mountain. I'll go on a bike ride with you guys.
Oh, bike
we can
ride.
cycle for like 4 hours. or
Around the
something,
canal, is that
Around
it?
the canals. I'm not climbing up the damn mountain.
What if they say bike to
Don't knock it
like
until you try
to
it.
Wales or bike to
Bike to-
Bright,
yeah,
Brighton and back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got my legs are set. I'll get some leg cramps.
Excuses are happening.
I guess so.
Alright.
But as people don't really talk about, like black people don't really talk, we don't talk about our emotions. When you're all on the mountain, aren't some people like, why are these guys all doing this sharing their feelings nonsense? Like, and some guys like more reserved and like don't want to talk about it. How did you break down? And how many people were there as well?
I think that's
Typically,
yeah. I mean, typically we aim for a group of between 12 to 20.
Yeah.
So that's nice and easy enough to break and spread. But what we found is, so it's linked to the way, in fact, it might link to your experience of boarding school. So my personal experience was I used to be like, no way you're going to see me at Snowdon. It looked like you're talking about Kilimanjaro or Everest. Like, as soon as you say mountain, that's where I'm going. And I rate in 2019, I went on holiday with some friends, 8 other guys. I was the only black guy, right? And I thought we went to this Mount Triglav in Slovenia, and I thought that's a smaller mountain than Snowdon because I've heard Snowdon's one of the biggest ones here. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll do that. Then maybe when I come back, I'll do Snowdon. Turns out that's a bigger mountain.
But you still did it.
Yeah, but the people I was with, A, I had an amazing time, even though I'm the only black guy, and B, different ability levels. So I kind of knew what to expect when we were doing this. And the reality was, once we were away from our everyday life, you're not in your apartment, you're not near work, you're not near your friends, it's a random group of men you don't know. We're not pushing you to kumbaya or to say what's up. We're just starting with a walk. We might give you some talking points, potentially start the conversation because you don't know who's who. But once we start, people just start talking. And what are you going to do when you start talking? You say what's on your mind. You're not just going to, you shoot the breeze, but you say what's on your mind. And it might be about business. It might be about your relationships. Then as you get comfortable, you build some trust. You see that we're not there to do anything, dodgy. You start to unleash more. And that's designed purposefully, like to build bonding. And we try to incorporate a therapist or someone from the mental health specialism. Not that they're there to run a session, but because they've got that background in having those conversations and facilitating discussions, it's a safer bet that in case something comes up,
they can handle it.
Yeah.
You guys have kind of upgraded the whole barbershop vibe because like barbershops are
that's
quite
true.
like a chill community. You can you guys can talk about anything pretty much in the barbershop, but like it's like a limited amount of time. But this is kind of like outside the barbershop, mobile barbershop on a mountain.
Men need to feel safe, right? We need to feel
it's
safe.
like I said, that's a safe zone.
So maybe instead of the therapist bringing up, you bring up the barber. You all get it top of the mountain.
I don't need much.
Oh yeah, they can still clip you up from your beard.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Put me up a bit. But it is literally that, and it's just amazing. Like A, the sense of achievement and everything that comes with it. B, you're doing something completely new with people who are completely new. So you feel more comfortable almost talking about things that are also completely new.
Let's go back and see them on Monday at work and be like, oh, you just told me about it.
Exactly. If you want, you can come to the next event or you can stay connected. If you don't, that's it, fair enough. But you have such a great time. You hear about all the amazing things everyone's doing. Everyone wants you to do well. Why wouldn't you want to connect? So it becomes a bit more of a community, and that's the hope as well. Because prior to that, where do black men go for mental health?
They keep it in private as much as possible.
Keep it inside. I mean, I think I've seen my dad cry once, and I think I was like,
What to talk openly at a dinner table? Be like, you guys suck. You're stressing me out, or what?
No, he was quite. I think
You brought me to tears.
He's like, is that what you got? Is that what paid all your school fees for?
Yes, exactly.
He's like, I made so many mistakes in my life. He starts weeping. No, it was like something serious, like his mom passed away. So that's the one time I've ever seen my dad cry. But as a firstborn son, and you just get told if you like fall over, it's like, I get up, like, don't cry, you're not your sister. Like, it's just kind of like, you take the lead from your dad, and like, if your dad's like most Nigerian African parents are pretty
Strong figures,
strong figures. So you're like, oh, I'm not gonna cry for my dad, I don't want to think I'm soft.
Yeah.
So like, that's where it starts. And then it's like, I think it just kind of stays with you. Like, you've got a problem, you just internalize it.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
I said it previously, it starts even earlier than that. Did you know that?
yeah.
Tell us.
So I said it previously where, let's say, for instance, when you're born, if let's say, for instance, you had an identical twin sister as well, you both fall off the table. To your sister, they're going to say, it's all right, cry. To you, they're going to be like, oh, you're a big boy.
Big boy.
Big boys don't cry.
So you're being programmed from even a young age without you realizing. So even you think about that's how you are, and that's how you're. We've all been programmed
Like that,
all the way
like,
through.
Do you want
Generation.
Do you want me to tell you what my triggers are from growing up? My triggers are, Dami, stop being big for, you're not big for nothing, you know? and another one that I keep hearing, and it like, sometimes I'm like, this is, okay, why do you make these assumptions? But like, Dami, something about you, you know, when I come to talk to you, you're always well-spoken. I'm like, for someone of where you're from, I'm like,
For a native.
yeah, I'm like, because I'm educated, because I can speak English, because like,
Yeah, get out.
why is it like well-spoken to me? Why is that always a descriptor for Black men of education, or even Black men of education? And
Because it seems unusual.
it's not unusual though.
I mean, to the observer, to the other person.
The funny thing is, you say that when this whole latest thing with the football, like the Black British players missing the penalties,
Yeah.
and then I think it was John Barnes who used to play for England, and he was like a Black player ages ago, and he's like, I said this like 20 years ago, it's not about like football fans are racist, it's like, it's a societal problem, and football is part of society, so you've got to tackle the problem in society before you tackle the problem in football. So he said the perception of like Black people, it's not like the superstars, the athletes, the Michael Jordans, the Will Smiths, their perceptions are good. Like famous Black people, like they're allowed because they're like, oh, they're famous and nice.
Yeah.
But like they don't, the media doesn't put up the forward image of us like successful Black people. Once you own in gangs, once you start their business, that's never put forward. So he was basically saying we need to change the perceptions of Black people in the country and put forward all the good things we're doing and all the positive things rather than, oh, look, Black Lives Matter march ends in violence. It's like one person had a fight with someone else.
Yeah,
it was
we
like,
talked about that,
so,
yeah.
and then it's like, oh yeah, these thugs are marching all over. No, they need to portray like the good side of us, and that's the main problem. Like getting.
But the thing is, it's shock.
And that's a whole well-spoken thing.
Shock value is what sells news,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So, let's even talk about like traditional football culture. It's always hooligans that make the news, right?
Yeah.
It's not about like, oh, everyone went out for beers afterwards. Because that happens. People go for beers afterwards. Be like, oh, you guys tried, but you know.
Yeah, we won. Oh, you guys played really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goal was really.
And
But that's it. I mean, football is a massive community because everyone loves the game as much as you love your teams. So even you console certain people, hey, you know, you have fun. And I think it's also then important for us to say it's also not just about meeting up and it's okay to cry, although it is. It's about just meeting up and also being open and talking about random other things that might go into childhood. And I'm really curious to learn about both of your childhoods. I know you've touched on briefly the triggers.
Big man.
But I want to, I guess the first question I probably want to ask, when you think back to your journey where you are now, maybe in those earlier days, are there particular moments that you felt more like you struggled, or maybe you felt just like you were on rocket fuel compared to now where you maybe society has tamed you a bit? I don't know if that question makes sense for you.
Ooh. T, why don't you take that one first?
On rocket fuel in a good way, like you'll succeed. Like you were like, oh, the world is my oyster. And it's like, hell no, slap.
Before
I remember the song with this. I just thought about my first one ever. There was this girl I liked, and I was like in boarding
Why
school.
is it always a girl with you?
Why not?
No, you tell us. Women are beautiful, beautiful creatures, and if there were,
And it's for you to love them. Love them all.
If there were more female leaders, I'm pretty sure there'll be less wars. I'm pretty sure. I can't guarantee that, but I think if there were more
I'm
female
pretty sure
leaders,
you're hitting on a female.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
I don't know what you're talking
You're
about.
specifically talking to someone in this mic right now.
Especially female leaders with ponytails. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway,
What's her name? Tell us now.
Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Yes, that was a girl I liked, and I was like 13, and I was in boarding school. So I boarding school, stay there for like a month, go to London, go back home to London for like the weekend, go back to boarding school. And so I went to London, and I was like talking to this girl, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait for you to come back. We're on holiday." It was like half term, and it was Valentine's Day. So I went from London to Winchester on the train on Valentine's Day, and me, her, and like three of our other friends, we went on like a double date. And we went to cinema. And then
How old
like,
were you at the time?
like 13, 14.
What movie did you go to on a triple date? Like,
I don't remember the movie. I wasn't focused on the movie. I didn't get a train from London to Winchester to watch the movie.
Pre-gaming that Netflix and chill before Netflix is a thing.
The original Netflix and chill was Odeon and chill. And I made that little
Wow.
textbook. So we had a day, went to cinema, holding her hand, and then afterwards, like I went to kiss her, but she was being a bit weird. I'm like, oh, but she really liked me for. Her friend comes up to me and she's like, looked to me and like, you know, I love you, like I'm your friend, and like I introduced you to her, but like I'm really sorry, like she doesn't know how to tell you this, but her dad says that she's not allowed to date a black guy.
They said that.
That's what she couldn't say. Her friend said it because she's like, and her friend like obviously introduced me. My friend was dating her friend, and so she's like, oh yeah,
Were you the only black guy?
I was obviously it's Winchester.
What
Man.
was her background? It was English.
She was English. Everyone was English except for me.
Okay.
And so then I was like, I just got a train here, like on Valentine's Day, and like I didn't even get dumped because it was like our second date, and I was just like, I did basically get dumped, and she was like, she felt really bad, and like she's like, I'm really sorry, but like that was what she said, and I'm like, you could have told me this before I got on the damn train. So like that was I was like, I wasn't heartbroken because I didn't like her that. When you're like 13, 14, you're not like infatuated, but like I was like, I like her, and I was like, damn, like. He just I haven't even met the guy. He just heard I was back and he doesn't want to date me. So that was like I think the first time. And then the second time was like getting stopped by police, just like with my white friends, we're riding their bicycles, and then in my area in London, it's a nice area, and then they stopped me like every 4 days in a week, and they're like, did you steal this bicycle? What are you doing on him? I live here, my house is right over there. And they're like, I had like a really big afro back then. And then so those two things, I think the first few times I got stopped by police in London, and that girl being like, my dad says that I can't date you because you're black. And I was like, wow. And like I never really thought about it till then, because
Did that lead you down the path of finding out more about what being black is and being proud to be black, or did it make you shrink in terms of, oh, black isn't as good?
Thank you for listening to Mentalk Ubuntu podcast and being a valued member of our community. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and other social media now for access to our latest updates. DM us and let us know what your mental health is on a scale of 1 to 5. Thank you.
That's a good question. To be honest, I hadn't really thought about it when I was young, because when I was a kid, I was like going to Nigeria Christmas, all my cousins, got cousins in America, and in London's a diverse city, so I had like friends from all over. When I got to boarding school, and after this happened in boarding school, like first year is like when you're 13, afterwards being like the only black kid in my, not in the whole school, but in like in my year, it was, people say things like on my first day, someone's like, are you made of chocolate? And then so like I just said dumb shit for like, oops, I'm not meant to swear, my bad. So dumb things that kids will say when they're like 13 and they're ignorant. And he lived in Yorkshire, never seen a black guy before. And so I kind of, like you said, I jumped into the role more. So then I was like, well, if you guys are going to be racist, I mean, I already like Dr. Dre and stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to be like fully black.
Right into the brand.
Yeah, I'm just going to it. So I'm like, all right, cool. So like, I started wearing chains, and I was just like, started this hip hop. And then if anyone talked bad to me, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna whoop your ass. Like I started talking like a black American for a bit, for like a year or two. So then I think I didn't lose because those are your formative years, like 13, 14, like when you're a teenager. So I started like, I was heavily influenced by like 50 Cent. I got like a big cross tattoo on my back, just like 50 Cent. So like, I think my influence kind of went a bit more 50 Cent. And if anything happened after that day, I just had zero tolerance. So some guy once said, your skin is the color of poo, I slapped the crap out of him in a lesson. And like the teacher's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, he's starting to colour poo. And the teacher's like, okay, cool, he's going to this. So like, I realized, oh, cool. I mean, I can do whatever. If someone's next, I can do whatever I want. So then from then on, it was all different. So like the power term. But the first few years, it was just like a lot of people saying, not malicious, just like ignorant things and like dumb things. And like, oh, you're black, you can't swim. Oh, you're black. Oh, you're black. Did you steal your car? Like, I'm like, that's English boarding school. They make like the most lame, unimaginative jokes, but like, until you check them and then it gets stopped. So
it's like any bully, right? If you check them, they usually
they'll stop. But boarding school is a lot. I'm pretty sure I was traumatized in boarding school. Like I had loads of friends, but it was still a lot. Like just even one day we got caught in the pub and we all ran. And then I got back to my boarding house and the housemaster was like, so you were in the pub. Everyone ran. The only person we could ID was you.
So, Timaine,
the one black guy.
The one black guy.
Timaine's always in the middle of all these.
Literally.
Oh, okay.
And then they're like, if you tell on your friends, we won't suspend you. Like, so you want me to snitch on like 12 people in my school? No, I'm cool. I'll take that. Took on the chest. And then went down like a block legend.
So actually, let me give you a follow-up question. Now that you've gone through that experience and you said boarding school has been a trying time for you, have you ever had a discussion with your parents saying, you know what, this was maybe not the right decision, or well, maybe even a different question altogether is, what would you do to change it in the future for your kids? You know, would you put them in boarding school or no? Or would it be, because private school is considered elite, you get the best education,
and you meet loads of connections. You get really good.
That's how Boris Johnson and his mates.
Like some of my friends are now politicians, lawyers, doctors. So it's like you get the network, just like an MBA. You get the network, but you get it early in boarding school. I think everyone's different. It depends on your personality if you can handle it. My little brother went and he didn't last that long. He didn't finish there because he just got homesick and stuff. It depends on your personality. My sister loved it. I loved it. My brother did. He's the youngest. So it teaches you to be independent, and like something like moving to Manchester, like I can go anywhere in the world and make friends like that. And it's the confidence they teach you in boarding school. And then the third thing is the way you speak. Obviously, it helps you, like when you get stopped by police. Hi, officer. They're like, all right, let him go. I'm like, what's up, blood? Why are you stopping me? Because I'm black, yeah? All right, cool. See you in the station. So it's like you learn survival skills, you learn confidence, you learn how to interact with people, you learn to network, and you get.
So there are pros.
I think there are more pros than cons, but for some people, like there were a few like white people who got bullied and like left the school. Like it's like. Obviously it's not, it's like prison, but it's not obviously, but it's like military, prison, boarding school. It's like institution. So it's like you're in bunk beds or you're in dormitories, like you wake up at a certain time, like people bully people, like it doesn't get seen by the housemaster because it's like, just like how I imagine the army is prison. And it's like everyone clicks up and it's like, okay, he's the weakest link, let's put him in a laundry basket and throw him down the stairs, like that kind of stuff. Or like let's lock him in a locker. And no one's gonna go to teacher. These guys lock me in a locker. No one's locking me in a locker, just know that. But no one's gonna go to teacher, I got locked in a locker, because then you're gonna be like, oh, he's a snitch, and then he's gonna get even more bullied. So it's like survival of the fittest, really.
But you will, like, let's say for the next generation, you would highlight all these pros and the cons to them, and let's say
if I said
when you have a kid, and I know he's not going to be Caucasian, if it's you're a biological kid, but, so you'll tell him about what it's like to be a black person in that environment.
I'll give them a freaking crash course. My parents are like, oh, later. They didn't say anything.
Oh, you're going to give him a boot camp at home and be like,
look,
you're the weakest link down the stairs.
Don't get bullied. Like, don't take any nonsense. But like, just be respectful, be nice, know where you come from, know your value, know your worth, and like, go get some good grades. And if anyone messes with you, don't tolerate it. That's what I would tell them. And like,
So at what stage did you start going through your culture for you to kind of, go back and, so you said that your parents didn't really teach you in terms of, much of your heritage?
No, they taught me loads of my Nigerian heritage, but not how to survive in like a white boarding school. How
had they been in boarding school before?
No, they went to Nigerian boarding school. Then like my dad went to Yale. My mum went to Oxford. So
gentle flex, huh? Just like that.
Humble flex. Hashtag black excellence.
What school did you go to?
Winchester, baby. They talk about Nigeria. They didn't say no. My dad basically, he always says he doesn't see racism. Like he was like the first black broker in Merrill Lynch, humble brag. So he's like, he went through, he like experienced it, but he's like, you can only feel a victim if you let them victimize you. And so it's like, no one can like call you a slave because your ancestors weren't slaves, because they're from Nigeria and like we own land and like our family bloodline goes back like hundreds and hundreds of years. And we've got our heritage, we're not slaves. So like, don't let anyone call you that. He's like, you're not one of these, no offense to all my Jamaicans, but he's like, you're not a Jamaican.
You're not a Rastafarian.
You're not a Rastafarian. Like if I ever like had like when I braided my hair once, he's like, bro, we're not Jamaicans, we don't do that thing. Like I went out topless one day, like it was really, really hot in the summer, and he like drove his car, stopped it, and he's like, put on a shirt. We are not Jamaicans, we don't do that.
Wow.
So he's very like Nigerian, respect your elders, education
Image is everything.
Image,
Yes.
Work hard, study hard, get your education,
Sure.
and like that will carry you through life. And yeah, pretty much. So anytime it's like, oh, this kid was racist to me in school, he's like, don't worry about it. Like why does that concern you? Like, what did he say? I'm like, he said, oh, my skin was the color of poo. He's like, and why does that affect you? Like, just keep moving. I'm like, I slapped him. He's like, probably shouldn't have done that. He's like, you probably should have done that. But like, don't be so sensitive. Like, it's not to you. Like,
Well,
we're not victims. We're like, we like have heritage, so you shouldn't feel. He's like, any room you walk into, you should have your head held high because like we are like descendants of royalty and shit. So like,
you're a Nigerian prince.
You're a Nigerian prince.
Back in my village,
Yeah.
you were royalty.
We're
I
royalty.
get that,
Like, yeah. So he's like, don't let me. That's weird. So yeah, he's just like, don't worry about it.
Sounds like you've had a really good, relationship and dialogue with your father as well. When has it always been that kind of
No, but he's hardcore, man. He's hardcore.
Strict.
Yeah. Hard.
Does he have like like kung fu?
He does. Yeah, he did kung
stuff?
fu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when he says I'll slap the black on the
He actually,
You better be scared.
He did, yeah, that did not like that. That's why I was getting in trouble in boarding school. I was not worried. Then they're like, I'm gonna call your parents. I was like, please, I'm sorry. I will change. I will be good. But like, you got attention. I'm like, give me 2 hours. I don't care. He's like, you're gated. I'm like, that's cool. You're not allowed out. I'm like, that's cool. He's like, you're suspended. I'm like, please, I'm sorry. I'll change. Don't send me to the first time we can arrange. I'm gonna put this check here. Just stop. When I write a number. But the first time I got suspended, I went home. My dad locked me out of the house for like 12 hours. Like he was like, you're not coming in here. He's like, sit and think about what you've done. He came out, took my phone, closed the door, and I was like, oh man, and he just left me there. Then eventually my mom took me out.
Oh, your mom let you in, you mean?
Yeah, my mom's like, no, she took me out for lunch. She took me out for dinner by then because I came in the morning. She took me out at dinner. She's like, you've been here all day. I'm like, yeah. She's like, come on, let's go get some food. Thank you, mom. Love you.
Mommy's boy.
Unconditional love there.
I am a mommy's boy. Definitely, but my sister's a daddy's girl. But anyway, doesn't Danny have a loaded question?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I'm like psychoanalyzing.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. It sounds like you're going through some stuff. We need to uncover your stuff.
Can I get a tissue like that?
You do need to come on our next event.
I think I'm coming up slower with you guys.
Next one's caving. So we go deep
underground.
That's right.
It's not deep underground or anything like that, but
No, you got
when we talk about white people activities, we went to Poland and my two friends were like, let's go to these salt mines. You go down like a rickety lift under Poland, Warsaw, and then like it's these salt mines, underground caves, and it's like 7,000 meters on, I don't know, somewhere ridiculous. I'm like, dude, I'm not going underground. Have you not seen these horror movies? I'm not going in some wooden lift with the ones with the pulley system. No, but the caves collapsed and now we're stuck here, guys. Don't worry, someone will come and save us. No, I'm on top of the ground calling for help for you guys.
When that situation's happening, I was like, I refuse to be a statistic. You guys
Minimize risk under any
Exactly.
circumstance.
Because the last thing I want is even if I die, it'll be like my mom, like I raised him better than this. Does he not know?
Does he not know? We don't do such things. And if I get trapped in a cave, if we get trapped in a cave, Danny's getting eaten first. Those muscles and those games.
You think you can all take me?
oh yeah.
We're gonna get started when he's sleeping. We get him. Exactly. Big rocks, lots of rocks.
Make sure you can use more than one.
More than one rock. You won't live on me. I'm not. That's silly, man.
That's a good transition, actually, Danny. Then, because you said you had this trigger of you're not big for nothing, and we've spoken about checking people. Have you had moments where size was a factor or where you had to check people? I'm seeing a gentle giant, I'm seeing a calm guy, and I know still waters run deep. Like, what happens? Or did you have similar ones when you were younger?
When I was younger, it's like
that you can't go to jail for now, you know.
Okay. Okay, so-
Let's clarify that.
Yeah, exactly. You know
Statute
me.
of limitations is gone, man.
I'm gonna really play the politician
Yeah.
card there.
Pre-18, you know.
18. Okay, so there's this girl, right? No, so I think for me, when I say big for nothing, it's, you know, I'm not a skinny guy and I don't think I'll never be, you know, because, you know, I'm built different, as I like to call it.
Oh, I'm built different.
Yeah.
Humble brag.
Yeah. Well, no, it's the truth. Is that, you know, even on, let's keep it cultural. So that way it's like, you know, I'm built different, but however, a lot of people want the stereotypical skinny person, say, you know, what is good looking in the Nigerian eye or the young people's eye. At least in the upper generation, they say you can't be big, you can't be big bones, you can't be, you know, it's or you're too dark, you know, because I'm a team dark skin, right? So
Come on,
yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
So it's like when you get called, oh, you know what, Dami, you're too dark, you shouldn't be wearing this color, it makes you look darker than you are, or Dami, you're too big for this ride, you should lose some weight, or Dami, what you've been eating, you know. But the thing is, like, all these things, you know, they're said to me, maybe not even, they might be said in jest, right? But it's still, these are things that, one, maybe for my skin tone. I remember like trying to like scrub so I could be lighter, you know, but I can't, right? I tried and tried. When I was
Glad you didn't learn about the soaps.
No,
That BG thing's a real problem,
Yeah.
man.
It's
Real
there.
problem, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, or even let's even say, oh, damn, you're too big. I'm like, this is partially why I even go to gym now as hard as I do. It's because I've been told, like, you know, you should run more, you should go to the gym more. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'll play sports, but you know, I can't really be that skinny guy or whatever. And thanks a lot. Nigerian culture says you shouldn't eat a lot, but our food is carb rich, man. It's heavy. You're telling
Every meal.
You showed me an African household where clean play isn't the standard.
Exactly.
If you're a man, you need to eat.
Exactly.
Like,
Where's the meat? Where's
Where's
Finish pasta's plate.
exactly.
I need more meat,
Exactly.
big portion.
So, but
Bring that meat.
yes.
I want that one.
So all these things I've kind of had to face growing up, but however, you know, as I mature and I come more comfortable with myself, you know, I'm able to say, you know what, F it, I'm Big D, you know, that's what people call me.
Big D.
Yeah, that's it. You know who it is. My name's Dan. Jessica, this is for you, or Tamane's girl that
Gary's like, this is an invitation to slide into my DMs.
I'm sliding. All right. But yeah, as I grow more comfortable with my personality and who I am, I play the card. I play it up. You know, people say, oh, you know, Dami, you run so fast for your size. Like when we play basketball, people are.
This guy can run for days in Boston. I'm there like, and he's like, it's like, all right, I'm open. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? He doesn't get tired.
Yeah, so which is also.
I'm like, you're like an Ethiopian trapped in a Nigerian body, man. The way you run, you're like, or Kenyan, like a long distance runner.
Olympics 2020, you know, I'm
alien Olympic team.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I've grown more comfortable with my personality. I now play into it, and me being able to run because of my size, kind of thing. This is played in from previously from being called too big to be nothing. But I want to say, despite my size, I could still move around. I could still be agile. I could be athletic, kind of thing. And then me being black, you know, sucks that people say you taste like poop.
Taste. Do you know what poop tastes like, buddy?
I'm like that. I'm like, oh damn, your skin is so nice. I'm like, yeah, you know, rich with melanin. It got that chocolatey goodness.
On the first day of our MBA course, we had to introduce ourselves to the class. It's like, I'm Big D. Your chocolate, what's it? Your chocolate?
Your friendly neighborhood chocolate man.
I was there like, is this guy for real?
Yeah, exactly.
So he's tripping.
Yeah, you take control of that narrative. Right?
Yeah,
that's what you're. Yeah,
and that's a really good point. As you get older, you start to like be comfortable with yourself.
So yeah, that's essentially how I've come to be who I am now. But I know that not everyone is quite comfortable with their personality. We all have our, our faults or what we're trying to battle. But I'm not perfect in myself too. There's still some, what's it called? Insecurities that I still have. But however, like I said before, I have my infrastructure in place. I have people in place. And, if I'm able to talk like this, it's more power to me, and I feel stronger and richer tomorrow.
So I'm intrigued because you mentioned something that I really love, which is infrastructure, and I talk about that all the time. So when you were younger and you were getting all these things come at you different way, and most probably self-doubt yourself. What kind of infrastructure did you have when you were younger before you transitioned to
growing confidence in my identity? I think realistically, I think it's when you find other people that are going through similar struggles. So let's even say I had family friends. So I immigrated from UK to Canada. And then because my family were Nigerian, and Nigerians always know other Nigerians, we made friends with other Nigerians, and their parents are like stereotypical African parents, and then however their kids are more westernized, as I am. So when you then are able to find someone else that has gone through the similar upbringing, the strict Nigerian parents or strict, West Nigerian thinking, and they've also been exposed to UK culture, Canada culture, whatever, to be westernized, then you're able to have that dialogue easily with them. So there's one guy that I really think about and I really thank is one of my best friends is Fian. So he was there with me for the hard times when it comes to girls or like school and things like that, but also when it comes to injustice, things that I didn't feel comfortable to say to my parents. I would have Fian to say, hey, you know what, this happened, and then he'll console me or tell me, or like he's gone through similar things, or he can just be a boy and be like, yo, let's play some basketball, or let's beat up on these people. We never did, but it's nice to be able to have that dialogue with someone that you can really confide in. Yeah. So I had friends, that's related to my situation, so very directly themselves.
Really good. Good point. That same thing happened to me actually. When I was like 16, one of my best, same thing, like parents Nigerian, but like he grew up here, and it's very hard to find someone in an exact or similar situation as you, because a lot of Nigerians I know, they were just here for like 3 years to study. So like they've been in Nigeria their whole lives, came here to study, went back. And then other ones so it's very rare to find ones that grow up here, but their parents are still traditional. So yeah, it's true. Like you get similarities and they understand your perspective, which is really hard. Even dating girls, I find that really hard to like share my perspective of life with my partner. So like that's crazy, because every girl thinks about things differently, and everyone thinks about things differently. But like if you don't grow up with someone, you don't have shared experiences.
So it's hard for them to gain an understanding.
They're like, oh, why does this upset you? Why is and you're like, oh, and I've got to like go way back and explain like the whole history of why this.
Very sexy.
Oh my God. I was at a house party a few weeks ago and someone.
Wait, this is with 6 people or less, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would never ever breach COVID protocols.
We're not going to be doing that.
No,
I wouldn't
definitely not. There were only
exactly.
I say house party, I meant 3 people.
Small gathering.
Exactly.
It was a Zoom.
It was a Zoom meeting. It was a Zoom house party. It was a Zoom house party. That's what it was.
All right.
And this Italian girl said something. Me and my friend were talking. I said something, and we talked to this Italian girl, and she said in Italian, "That's a funny thing for a black person to say." But obviously, I speak a little bit of Italian, but not that good. But I heard the word negro, so obviously,
I know what that means.
And we're all like, "What?" Whoa. We're like, "What?" And someone was like, "Oh, why did you find that word offensive?" I'm like, first of all, why are you even like addressing me by my skin color? How's that relevant?
She came for you, bro.
She came for me.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know. Let me not even tell you what I did, because I'm not trying to get cancelled. Anyway, let's just say I was not happy about it. And I made my opinion known that I was not happy about it. But then she went and did the same thing at another house party, apparently a few weeks later. And it was like a black couple, and then it turned into a fight. So I'm like, I warned you, and now look what happens. And they all thought I was overreacting. Look how these guys handled it.
There's that saying that my parents always says, like, if you don't learn it from your house, you'll learn it from the streets.
And it's going to be
Yeah,
painful.
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's why they say you can learn that hard way, easy way or the hard way.
Yeah,
You can learn from experience is the best teacher. All of them. Mentality loves those expressions.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
you know,
experience is the best teacher.
you know what? This is one thing I'm very, very proudful about my Nigerian culture is that when they're trying to teach you a lesson, they have the most wonderful analogies, proverbs. I'm like, parables. Yeah, it would be like, and then they'll say something like, and then this reminds you of, you can't take an elephant up a mountain on your back. And then I'm like, where'd you come up with all these things? I'm like, but you know, they have wisdom to them, but they're always telling me like, wow, I'm like, where'd you come up with this? Like, is there a book you all study?
I think that's like a big, it's like story for the right situation.
Exactly.
Hit it with page 32.
Yeah.
Be right back.
So yeah,
I think it's also, when you touch on relationships, there's this, I don't want to say that constantly, but there's this aspect of, there's a caricature of a Black man and what you're supposed to be. And there's just relationships in general and how tricky they are. And when we factor in, because when you were talking about things to do with your physique and certain observations people were making and athleticism, that's where some of the caricature comes in. And we almost feel like, yeah, we sort of built like that. But when that's what some people first see before they see the person behind that, it becomes tricky. And when you try and open up as well as women perhaps having this view of what a man should be like, when you're a Black man as well, there's something different there also, especially because emotion isn't something we tend to show. So if you're trying to be vulnerable and explain some of the background to what's going on, that's why I sort of facetiously said, oh, that's really sexy, isn't it? Like, she's like, no, this isn't what I wanted to hear. Like, you know, this isn't what I expected. This dude weak. And there's that association.
So you don't want to look soft.
Yeah, we don't want to be seen as soft or weak. So, but this goes back to how you navigate that. And thankfully, you've got your friends and you've got your circle as well. And it's also realizing sometimes those circles don't have all the tools or the support you need for everything that you're going to go through in life. Like when we're in our 40s and 50s, we might need different circles. And being aware enough to know what we need is really important. And part of that is expanding our circles in general, trying to do different things. And so I thought that was
you just given me I just thought, remember at the beginning of when we first, like beginning of the podcast, just before you said, we're talking about cycling, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I just got my bike because I crashed my car. Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, how are you? Like you're going, yeah, man, it's cool, man. Mercedes make good cars. But like actually, I was mad traumatized for like 2 weeks, and I didn't tell like anyone. It was like,
why were you traumatized?
Because I freaking almost died. Like I wrote off my car on the motorway. Like the shit was bouncing off walls and shit.
I didn't see that.
Because I don't talk about, we don't talk about like our feelings and shit. But like,
you know, I'm here, right? You know, we're talking. I'm here for you.
This is why we don't talk about that shit.
So you're telling me you can cut glass and break your foot? You can call me for that, but you can't tell me, damn me.
He was crying on the motor.
Oh, no. My feet was so crying. But I was like,
what are you talking? Your mom told me you're crying. So fine. She told me to come to your house to help you.
These are all lies.
And that's like you say, that's
really... But like it's like, and everyone's like, and then even my boys like in London, like, I crashed my car. Like, oh damn, man. But like the next day they're like, all right, cool, are we going to basketball? I'm like, he's like, all right, cool, come pick me up. I'm like, bro, I told you I crashed my car. He's like, oh yeah, my bad, yeah, I forgot. And like no one actually has been like, how you doing? Yeah. And then I was on the motorway with like one of my clients like last week, and he was like driving really fast. I'm like, bro, can you like slow down a bit? And he's like, he's turning around and why are you going down? And these guys all drifting. I'm like, bro, I'm fully traumatized. Like, stop swerving and shit. Just like focus on the road. So like, I think that times like that, like even my parents were like, oh, I just got my dad's like, I'm like, I've got bad news, Dad. He's like, well, I'm like, I crashed my car. No, I've got bad news and good news. He's like, what's the bad news? I'm like, I crashed my car. He's like, well, the good news is that you're alive and healthy. I'm like, yeah. So like, and that's it. And that's what we said, and we kept it moving. So I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to be alive. But then I'm in bed and I'm like, freaking thinking about like the cones and hitting shit and like replaying it again in my head. I'm like, I have no one to talk to about this shit. But I have a huge network of like friends and like family. So like even when you have that support, it's hard to like actually
activate it.
Activate it.
So actually, I guess let's even throw it to you guys that are advocates for mental health and talking to people. Here in, I guess, are you based out of Manchester, London?
Let's just call it Manchester for now.
Manchester and yourself?
Manchester.
So where could people look to find professionals to be able to open up if they don't have their own personal networks to talk to?
Hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed creating.
Don't forget to follow, like, share, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our latest episode and listen to any you missed. And tune in next episode.
Take care.